United States, as the world's largest economy and one of the world's largest energy consumers, has an incredible demand for oil and natural gas. For decades, the US relied on international markets for oil imports, as domestic fuel production declined. But in recent years, concerns over energy security, conflict in the Middle East, and higher energy prices have led to sharp increases in domestic oil and gas production. Enabled by technological advances, wells have sprung up all over the country. Silica sand, or frac sand, is critical to the drilling process.
It's really been Minnesota and Wisconsin that have been the epicenter of it.
Minnesota and Wisconsin have especially valuable silica sand deposits. While these mines bring jobs and economic activity, the pace of development has caused concerns over environmental and social externalities, prompting the state of Minnesota to create new regulations for silica sand mining. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, refers to the process of drilling wells that fracture shale rock to access pockets of oil and natural gas. Silica sand, which is incredibly hard and uniquely round, props open the fractures in the rock. Silica sand is used for a variety of industrial purposes, but the rapid growth of oil and gas fracking is the main driver for new mines. Silica sand mining is the process of removing granulated quartz crystals, or silica sand, from surface and underground mines. Most silica sand mines are surface mines, but a few mines extract the sand by boring or tunneling into hillsides. Excavated sand is then processed on-site or transported on trucks or trains to processing facilities. Once the recoverable sand is removed and processed, the mine site will be reclaimed so that the land can be reused. Reclamation is mandatory for all silica sand mines in both Wisconsin and Minnesota. The stakeholders in this process have taken largely opposing views on the topic of silica sand mining.
In our rulemaking process, there's a lot of concern about land use, loss of agricultural land. There's obviously a ton of concern on the part of citizens and people who live near silica sand mines or areas where there's a lot of transportation about the human health impacts and possible silicosis and respiratory problems in silica. And all the data shows that there's no problem with ambient silica. Then does there need to be a regulation to require you to continue to monitor for ambient silica once there's no concern like that?
Industry representatives want to expand silica sand mining as quickly as possible without burdensome regulation. Environmental organizations are concerned with the potential lasting effects on the air and water resources. Government regulators, however, don't just see the issue as a trade-off between industry and the environment.
Then the discussion evolves into where do we access them and how, what is the best way to access them so that it provides a minimal impact to the community. Because we need these resources. We use them every day. They have to come from somewhere.
Wisconsin is the nation's #1 producer of frac sand, with an estimated output of about 26 million tons annually, more than double what it was in 2012. Mines in Wisconsin are regulated by the Department of Natural Resources and must comply with state laws protecting air, water, and human health. Local governments can also enact ordinances for the well-being of their citizens.
Most problems were local jurisdictions that didn't have comprehensive planning or zoning, so they were unorganized.
Melanie Kleisborger of the St. Croix River Association said, "Local governments feel the pressures from the mining interests, particularly the indirect legal threat from a refusal to grant a requested permit. Local governments are afraid of such legal action because they do not have the great resources to spend on such litigation." Minnesota has taken a very different approach to regulating the industry.
The original thought was just do what Wisconsin does, put that in your rules, incorporate it, and you don't have to go through a bunch of process. The 2013 legislation directed all 3 agencies to make rules. So the Environmental Quality Board was directed to make rules concerning environmental review. The Pollution Control Agency was directed to make rules concerning the particulate emissions from silica sand. And then DNR was directed to make rules concerning the reclamation of silica sand mine rules.
DNR, PCA, and EQB have never previously collaborated on rulemaking, so this process is not only new for the regulated parties, but also for the regulators.
So there is this matrix of communication and organization, because there's some interest to maybe having statewide standards that approach it in a general way that everyone knows what to expect.
Rulemaking takes a long time.
The MPCA states that their rulemaking process usually takes about 2 years, but depends on many variables that could either expedite or elongate the process. Due to the novelty of collaborative rulemaking, this process might take longer than the standard 2-year timeline. But even if you miss the comment period for this part of the rulemaking process, publication of the draft rules will give you another opportunity for input. Stay informed and engaged. Your voice matters.
The more input that we do have from the public, the more input that we do have from stakeholders, the better the rule is. And public participation is key in that process.